that would be played by an orchestra on stage. The game changed somewhat in the several decades that it aired, but the fundamental theme of correctly naming the tune persisted. The quickest way to lose the game was to be unfamiliar with the songs that were played. Usually contestants were better at naming the old classic songs, but not quite as proficient at naming the new songs. You know, long before this modern game show, the psalmist had in mind a different version of Name That Tune. The old song that had sustained Israel in the old times had run out of relevancy for the new problems that they were facing in their more modern times. They were dealing with challenges that were new challenges, for which the old tunes did not have an answer. However, there were still many people that were trying to sing the old tunes, even though they no longer had the power that they once had. The psalmist is making a case for Israel needing a new song. And with prophetic boldness, the psalmist issues a radically different imperative. Sing to the Lord a new song. This new song would be one that they would have to learn how to sing. It had new lyrics and a new melody. It had a new rhythm that would demand a new kind of movement from the people. It was a song that carried them into the future if Israel would have the courage to learn it and sing it. The important thing to learn from this for modern peoples and communities is really the reality of being plagued by the same problem. What happens when the song that we sing is no longer relevant for the modern problems and challenges that we face? There are those who think if we just keep singing the same old song, that somehow, some way, magically, that new generations will start moving to these rhythms and join with us to struggle on. But to the contrary, the reality is that new generations will not be able to name our tune. If we want to reach there, we are going to have to learn how to sing a new song and to name their tune. This will be one of the greatest challenges that we will ever face. But I believe that we can do it. We can recognize three things with which we should become familiar. The first is, if we want to sing the new song, we have to first become familiar with the new lyrics. And by new, we are talking about the fact that there are millions of people out there who this world classifies as millennials. They are the largest generation of persons that America has ever seen. They number around 79 million persons. They were born between 1980 and 2000. And naming their tune means understanding who they are and what matters to them. In this sense, we are being invited to do what Paul said in 1 Corinthians when he said, that I become all things to all people, that I might save some. Learning their lyrics means understanding what kind of worship appeals to them. Here are three things that matter the most to millennials about appealing worship. They are not concerned about whether worship is traditional, modern, or blended. But they are concerned that whatever is sung have a deep biblical and theological truth to undergird. They want to hear that truth in music from the Bible, that theological truth that's there. And we know that the church's music is a very mixed bag of tricks. And sometimes a lot of what we sing is very shallow when it comes to deep biblical and theological truth. These folks also value what they call authenticity in worship. And they can sense when congregations are just going through the motions in a very perfunctory way, with perfunctory attitudes of just kind of marching down the bulletin point by point until we run out of stuff to do. This is about whether our hearts are really into worship. Let me illustrate what I mean. Everybody has their favorite sport and their favorite team. Now, our good friend Brother Logan liked them blue and white folks up in Lexington. But if you have your favorite team and your favorite sport, what would I see if I were watching you watch your favorite team on the television as your team either makes the three-pointer that wins the game or scores the touchdown that wins the game? Would I see you quietly there contemplating on the victory that your team just won? No, I would beg to differ. I would see a person who is emotionally engaged, excited beyond measure, clearly in touch with the excitement that may be miles and miles away, possibly even all the way around the planet. But that excitement would exude because your heart is in it. Everybody around here knows that I am an Indianapolis Colts fan. Capital F-A-N fan. And I don't know why it worked out this way, but the Colts never got competitive until I left Indiana. So there I am, way out on the Jersey Shore. While I was out there in 2003, they won the Super Bowl. And I can't remember where they played it, but I'll tell you this, wherever they played it, they could have heard my voice all the way from the Jersey Shore. There would have been no doubt my heart was in that game. Millennials sit back and watch us, and they aren't convinced that our hearts are really in worship. Because there's someone on their cell phone, somebody else writing things while important things are going on. They just really wonder, are our hearts really in worship? Are we excited when we come into God's house? Do we connect to those things that are going on in the name of the Lord? Are we beyond the shadow of a doubt authentic in what we do? Now, this is a Sunday when it's hard not to be authentic because emotions are involved. Hearts are involved. And what's at the core of this weekend touches all of us in different ways. But what about on the off Sundays when there is not something so engaging that's going on? Do people sense that we are just as passionate? Do they sense that what we are doing matters to us? Yes. Do they understand beyond the shadow of a doubt that here are people that believe they are standing before Almighty God in worship? Yeah. But don't doubt it, millennials are looking for a quality worship service. But quality to them means authenticity. It means folks that believe worship is so important that they will adequately prepare themselves as worship leaders, both spiritually and in time preparation. Millennials will walk away from churches that are fighting about what style of worship to have, whether to have hymnals or screen projectors, whether to use choirs or praise teams. Millennials just have a low tolerance of church conflict. So when they come and sense that folks are at odds with each other, they're going to walk out and never come back. It means becoming familiar with new rhythms. Millennials and seekers are interested in churches where the teaching and the preaching are given high priority. Priority means that members see the importance of these two things and actively participate in them. How would the millennials gauge us if they came to 4432 Greenwood Avenue? How would they rate us on whether we feel that teaching and preaching have high priority? Well, I tell you what, if they would gauge us by the number of folks who were in Sunday school this morning, we would flunk the test. If they would gauge us by the number of people that involved in the midweek Bible study, they would give us a big, fat, one-legged egg. So if we are going to say preaching and teaching are of a high priority, millennials are going to be looking that our feet are saying the same thing that our mouth is. I know there are all kinds of reasons that folks miss for this and that or the other, but if these things are not happening at a time that is convenient for you, then things that matter, we find a way to be involved, if they really matter. And we can have as many studies, we can have as many worships as we need to have if people are feeling they're not getting enough of what it is that God has for us. When I first came here, we were doing the Bible study 2 times a day, at 12 o'clock noon and at 7 p.m. Finally, we stopped at 7 p.m. because there was not a high enough expression of interest. I can recall on many occasions of teaching one student here on a Wednesday night. Now, those of you that know me, that I bring just as much energy to a one-person class as I bring to a 100-person class. No difference whatsoever. So they are interested in churches where the focus is not on the members, but on the community and the world around us. Inwardly focused churches that are only concerned about what happens in the 4 walls will not be attractive to millennials, because they believe the church should be outwardly focused. Whatever resources that we have should be mobilized to reach out to a needy world. That end, we have tried to engage our church in being outwardly focused by getting us involved in justice ministry issues that matter to this West End community. But once more, we find minimal participation, not enough folks involved. And so the millennials sit back and say, are you really interested in being the church of Jesus Christ? New Rhythms means developing outwardly focused ministries, like this in ministry that we're about to engage ourselves in, Jesus, Jazz, and Drama. This is an outwardly focused ministry. And it's amazing to me that the question can even be asked, how does this benefit Westwood? Let me say it this way. It doesn't benefit Westwood at all, but it does benefit the Church of Jesus Christ that was called to reach a world that is lost. Yes. It says to me, you got yourselves a nice little country club. It's only concerned about its members, its privileges, its resources. And you know what? When the country club is gone, nobody will miss it. Nobody will miss it. It means getting excited about preaching and teaching and these new expressions of ministry by being supportive, not critical, and being actively involved. The third thing is that if we would sing this new song, that we must become familiar with how God works through the new song. We often think that the old tune is the only way through which God will work. And so we are constantly inviting the young to join us to go back to the thrilling days of yesteryear. But the new song of the psalmist is not an invitation to go back to nostalgia. The new song of the psalmist is an affirmation that God is doing a new thing, and only churches that are willing to do a new thing will have a future. The new thing will move us out of our comfort zone. Expect to feel uncomfortable, because this is new leather. This is a new wineskin. Jesus defined his message and ministry as something that was new. And you know what they did to him. So it is so imperative that we bring a new attitude to the new. Because God can, does, and will work through new expressions of church and ministry, the type that moves millennials. We should be very careful about the new thing that God is doing. Careful in what we think, careful in what we say, because we might very well fall under the curse that Paul talks about in Acts 13:41. Behold, you despisers, and wonder, and perish. For I will work a work in your days, a work which you shall in no way believe, even if someone were to explain it to you. Biblical message is still around today because the people of God from generation to generation have had the courage and audacity to learn a new song. A 90-year-old woman, concerned about whether her church would have a future, was listening to a presentation on the importance of embracing the new at her church. She listened to the man talk about new forms of music, being outwardly focused, having energetic worship that is open to new expressions like drama and praise teams and dance. And after the presentation, she went up to the presenter and said, "Sir, if this is what it's going to take to save my church and give it a future, then let's boogie." Biblical message is constantly challenging us to be open to the new. Over and over again, its pages say, new, new, new. 7 times the psalmist says this same thing: sing to the Lord a new song. If anyone is in Christ, there is a new creation. I'm about to do something new that now springs forth. From this time forward, you will hear new things. Hidden things that you have not known. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. The days are surely coming, says the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel. Be renewed in your spirit and your minds, and clothe yourselves with the new self created according to the likeness of God. A new heart I will give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. No one sews an unshrunk cloth on an old cloak, for the patch pulls away from the cloak, and the tear is made worse. Neither is new wine put into old wineskins. Likewise, the skins burst, and the wine is spilled, and the skins are destroyed. But new wine is put into fresh wineskins, so that both are preserved. This cup is the new covenant in my blood. I give you a new command. that you love one another as I have loved you. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the one who was seated on the throne said, I am making all things new.
Yes.
The time has come for us to name that new tomb, to embrace that new tomb, to live in love out of that new tomb, so that the church of Jesus Christ in this leg of Zion might have a glorious new future. There's no time like the present, and no day like today. And all of God's people said, Amen. Amen.